Landlords who took forbearance during the eviction moratorium may be facing foreclosure as banks demand the entire amount at one time. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting article for you today, and it's going over one of the issues that they had during the whole eviction moratorium nonsense. So, as you recall, basically they said, hey, you can't evict your tenants, whether they pay rent or not, which caused a ton of tenants just to stop paying rent. And landlords weren't necessarily even eligible to get rental assistance when the program finally was released. So a lot of the landlords were told, hey, just put your property into forbearance, okay? Which would, basically temporarily pause the mortgage payments until hopefully you'd be able to start getting rent payments again. But what happened in a lot of cases was, hey, the tenants, they didn't start paying rent again for a year plus. Okay, so the forbearance amount that these landlords racked up was in the tens of thousands of dollars of a lot of cases, right? So now here we are a couple of years after all that happened, and the banks are just saying, hey, we're not going to put you on a payment plan so that you can slowly pay us back the amount of money that you owed from the forbearance. We want it all right now, and if you don't pay us, we're going to foreclose on your property. Okay? That is ridiculous. Okay, so this whole thing got started because of the eviction moratoriums they put in place, the fact that they told tenants they didn't have to pay the rent, and the tenants stopped paying, and that put landlords into this horrible financial situation. I mean, I can tell you for a fact, I've read several comments from landlords that say, hey, we put our properties into forbearance because we haven't received any rental income in, months or years, okay? And that was awful. I always suggested, even a couple of years ago, I was telling any landlords I knew, hey, if you can, pay, the mortgage as long as you can. Use your emergency reserves. Don't go into forbearance unless you absolutely have to, because I knew that this was a possibility. And now I'm reading articles saying that is exactly what's happening in some cases. So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button. Maybe leave a comment down below and let me know what you think. Did you think that all these banks and mortgage lenders, etc., were going to just allow landlords to, not just landlords, but homeowners, property owners, whoever, to slowly, make payments to pay back that money that they owed from when they put their properties in forbearance? Or did you believe from the very beginning that the banks were going to do just this in some cases and just go after everything all at once, putting the person into financial ruin? Okay, because that's exactly what I believed would happen. I knew some banks would probably work with people, but I knew that, hey, you feel lucky, because there's a chance that this could work out so bad. Okay, I hate hearing it, and I'm not laughing at these people who put their properties in forbearance. They needed it, but it is a horrible situation to be in. And it was created by a government who overstepped their authority and passed laws and rules that were unconstitutional in the first place. And my thought is that anybody who loses their property or any financial hardship, they should be able to sue these governments that put these rules in place. But let's get into this article. It's coming from thenationaldesk.com, and it says, mortgage companies tell homeowners to cough up large sums after loan forbearance. And the article, it has to do with, people dealing with their primary residence, but it's easy to see that, hey, this could easily apply to landlords as well. So let's get into it. Mobile County, Alabama. Jimmy Stokes says his mortgage company called him early in the pandemic and offered loan forbearance, which pauses payments. The 70-year-old says he was told his regular payments would be added to the end of the loan. But in January, he says the bank sent a letter claiming he owed more than $26,000, the total amount of payments missed. If I would have known, I would have never done it, said Stokes. Stokes says initially the bank told him to apply for a loan modification to get caught up, and that would be it. Be simple, said Stokes. Then he got a foreclosure notice. The due date on his loan modification is 16 days after the date his home was set to be sold on the courthouse steps to the highest bidder. Wow. Okay, so the bank wanted all their money. So the only way he could pay this back, they wanted him to modify his loan. You know, it would add the amount that he owes on top of his original loan amount, and then he would be able to make the payments on that total amount, right? Unfortunately, his house would be sold at auction before he was able to close. So he got screwed, okay? And this could easily happen to landlords. It could happen to anybody. And it's an absolutely awful situation to be in. Now, if he had known, he said right there, if he had known, he would have never put his house into forbearance in the first place, okay? And a lot of us, we were saying, hey, no, forbearance is a bad deal because something like this could happen. Unfortunately, he's 70 years old. He might not have been as knowledgeable about, the way the market works, the way things like this work, and he got screwed. So, I know that there are other landlords out there as well who are facing a similar situation. And I hate to hear that, hey, you lost your property because of the ridiculousness of that whole, eviction moratorium, rental assistance, tenants not paying rent, and you're forced to keep them in there. You just got to deal with it. All caused by this government. Government overreach. It's been rough because I could lose everything I've done, everything I've worked for, said Stokes. It's a big mess for homeowners right now, said Consumer Protection and Bankruptcy attorney James Patterson. Patterson says he's received 20 calls in the last 2 months from people with stories similar to Stokes. Patterson says companies offered what customers thought was a forbearance, but when they're forced into loan modifications later, to the detriment of consumers. Borrowers don't have $10,000, $20,000 laying around. Some were out of work, so they couldn't afford any kind of big payment at the end of this forbearance, said Patterson. Patterson says it's prompting people to file for bankruptcy because that stops the foreclosure from proceeding. Stokes is working with Patterson to fight back and keep his home. Yeah, that's awful, right? And I did a video. It was like my very first video for this channel. Basically, landlords are going bankrupt, okay? And this is the kind of thing that I was talking about, right, in that video. And what my big issue with all of the eviction moratoriums, all of, you can't see the long-term consequences on the property owners. That they couldn't see that when they passed the law. Now, here we are 2 years past the beginning of the pandemic. People like me, people like other landlords and, other real estate professionals, we were screaming, hey, this is going to end badly for a lot of people. This is not a good thing. A lot of people are going to lose a lot of money because of these rules and these laws that you put in place. And it's not even constitutional. It took them until August of 2021 to figure out that the CDC eviction moratorium wasn't legal and throw it out. But then you had all these local and state eviction moratoriums still going, and there still are ones going right now. So when a landlord puts his property into forbearance and he's just like, hey, I can't pay my bills right now because my tenants aren't paying me. Well, you think that these banks would be willing to work with you, but they're for-profit entities too, okay? And yeah, they might have actually told them this, but a lot of people, they don't read the fine print. They don't read everything that's being said, and they just don't understand. Especially we're talking about, older people, okay? So, man, bad situation overall. I wish that, there was more that could be done, but, even to this day, if a bank offers you forbearance, it just doesn't seem like it would be worth it in the long run. So yeah, that's crazy situation this guy's going through.